So this is Baruch Fleischman. We're here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and in the month of Elul, we're going to start thinking about the end of the cycle of the summer, which is going to come together at Rosh Hashanah, and then start beginning the cycle of the winter time. So here is the Book of Cycles, Jewish Astrology, a Cosmic Science. So this is written by a man by the name of Kronenberg, who is a master astrologer, and he's a Kabbalist as well. I had the privilege of learning with him for a few years. It was just he's really a nice person, a wonderful person. But he realizes that much has been lost in terms of Jewish astrology. We live in a world which is science-oriented. We're in a culture, an Asavdika culture. We're building and construction and all the different earth elements that have to be built and done and studied and so on and forth is what's popular. But the truth is that beneath it all, there are hidden factors that affect everyone's life. And that's why we study the cycles of life, which is the Jewish astrology. So let's come over here, and we're going to take a look at a new section. And I admit that the reason for my taking on this book, let me see if I can get some different kind of light in here, there we go, is because of this section particularly. I had a friend when I was becoming religious. I was in graduate school. I was becoming Orthodox. And this friend said to me, well, listen, if you ever get to a place where you know what's going on, figure out how the encampment of the 12 tribes, why 12 tribes? What's the significance of the number 12? So, and then why are the tribes camped in the way that they're camped? I mean, can you explain that mystery? It's a tremendous mystery if you read it in the Torah. Why does the Torah spend so much time talking about the encampment and the flags and going through other different things? Well, here you actually have tremendous secrets over here. And they come out of this concept, which is called the permutation of God's name. The God's name is Yud K Vav K. So if you don't know that name, then find somebody that does know what that means. It's actually just, it is the formula for the delivery of light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu into the lower worlds. That's what it is. But it can be broken into many different places. Over here, we're going to find out that name could be broken up into the concept of 12. So now let's see what Reb Yaakov Kronenberg has to say. He says this is a transcription. In other words, he used to say these orally, and then he had someone who would write them down. Transcription of series of lectures on the permutation of God's names and its uses as a powerful tool to reveal hidden truths and reality. Now he says the most ancient source for the technique of permutations is from the oldest astrological book in Judaism called the Sefer Yetzirah, which is also called the Book of Creation. And there's many things said about this Sefer Yetzirah, that this Sefer Yetzirah could be used to make a golem, which is some sort of a live accumulation of clays and different kinds of things, and be able to make it actually become into something. And in other places they talk about this and what it requires in order to do this. But one of the tools is to understand the permutation of God's name. So which is from this book, which is called Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Creation, written by Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was arguably the beginning of the oldest civilization in the world. Avraham Avinu lived between 3,700 and 3,900 years ago. This predates the Chinese culture or any other culture that exists on the face of the earth. This is the antecedents of the Jewish culture. Avraham Avinu, he was the first Jew who lived 3,700 years ago and was also the master astrologer of his generations. We have to understand that astrology, the stars, the study of the stars, in the ancient world, all the way up to, well, more or less the modern ages, was always considered to be something that was extremely important, and therefore was only conducted by people who had the leisure to be able to study and the brains to be able to study. Avraham Avinu was a master astrologer. He knew the movements of the stars. He was the first Jew, as we said before. The Talmud tells us that people came from all over the world to learn from Abraham, that's Avraham Avinu, and delve into their horoscopes. Now this whole idea of what is the cycle of my life, everyone is haunted today, before, all the generations going back, but the fact that we don't live forever. And not only that, but bad things seem to happen to good people, and good people say good things seem to happen to bad people. It's how do we get into a position where we're not going to suffer any more than we have to? How can we be prosperous and feed our families? All of these things were answered by the movement of the stars, that people understood the tracks of their lives as Avram Avinu. So the Sefer Yetzirah is actually a very short book, whose depth of wisdom and mystical insight has kept over 100 sages throughout our history writing commentaries on it. And I said one of those people is the Gaon of Vilna. The book discusses subjects such as the 10 spheres of Kabbalah, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and the astrology of the planets and signs of the zodiac. In this series, we also refer to the writings of the Tikkun Zohar of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and the writings of the early Kabbalah of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, who is known also by the acronym Ramak. In his masterwork, the book which is called Pardes Rimonim, the orchard of pomegranates. Understand, a pomegranate is like a little hard fruit, but inside of it has delicious seeds. So let's see what they're talking about. Now, this is the very first thing that we're going to see here. And this, I don't know how close we can get to it, and we may have to, I think previously I had something. I don't know, I used to have a little drawing. And I'm on the road right now with the break period, and I'm getting a chance to be able to look at this. So we'll try to see what we could do. So now we're going to start chapter 1. So chapter 1, it says it's written by Yaakov Kronenberg. Now this is for those of you who have a little bit of, you want to get into something really deep, this is where it starts. It's very simple. So all of these really simple things, this is like just a few pages, turn out to be the most difficult, most deep things that you need to be able to find people and writings that can show you the doors to get you through the various different places, which Hashem would help us with. But on the other hand, let's see what Rabbi Yaakov Kronenberg said. Let us look at the concept of permutations in Kabbalah and astrology. Permutation of Hebrew letters is a deep subject and a powerful tool to reveal hidden truths and reality. In its earliest source is from the oldest astrological book in Judaism, which is called the Sefer Yetzirah. He's really repeating the blurb that he had at the beginning, written by Avram Avinu, the first Jew who lived 3,700 years ago, and also the master astrologer of his generation. Now he says the Talmud tells us that people came from all over the world to learn from Abraham and dwell into their horoscopes. This Sefer Yetzirah is a very short book with a couple of pages of data, and yet there have been nearly 100 commentaries on it through the ages of the various leading sages and Kabbalists. And none claim a definitive grasp of the book's depth of wisdom and mystical insight. The book discusses 3 main subjects. Now, he mentioned this before, and we'll see it again. He says the 10 spheros, which is the spheros of Kabbalah, the Hebrew alphabet and its 22 letters, astrology with its planets and signs. It is in this book that the principle of permutations in the Hebrew alphabet is first introduced into writing. Now, we still don't know exactly what he means by that. But we say, for example, how many combinations of the 4 letters of Hashem's name, we drop one of the letters out, which he's going to explain. How many combinations can you make with the Yud? How many combinations can you make with the Vav? How many combinations you can make with the Hey that came before the Vav? So he says, before we start with the book, let's take talk a bit about the chart of the first man, which is Adam Arishon. Adam has 5 levels in his chart. Now, we've seen some of these charts before, and let's try to take a look over here. And what we're looking for right now is this one right here. So we see the different levels. We're just going to discuss it very briefly right here. Let me see if I can get a better view of it. This is a birth chart. So this is the birth chart of the first man, Adam Arishon. This is where he is born. This is his ascendant right here. And the basic principle, people have asked me about this before, because they see it in Sidurim for Rosh Chodesh, and they see the changes in the name. So here's the name, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. That's the first name. And what we're saying here, what he's saying simply, and we've talked about this before, is that the light of God shines through this name. But he says, as it approaches us, let's say we're down in the bottom, it goes through various different combinations of how the letters really act as a channeling process to bring the light of God. So first we see like this, is that you have the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, that's the name. And then you have, it comes with also the name Adni. And then Adni, which refers to Malchus level, is also could be written like Ad, and this Ad Yud Gimel. Then this is also the domain of Ruvain. It's the sign in astrology of Aries. And it's the house of life itself. That's where everything begins. And now you can see, just look at the next one. Okay, this is going to be the next house, the second house, which in astrology is the house of, I think this, let's say we're going, yeah, right, that was the first one. The next one is going to be Taurus. And Taurus is going to be, there's going to be a switch, though, in the way that the light shines. It goes from the Yud to a K, then another K, and then to a Vav. So it's not the same thing as Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, it's changed. The way that the light shines is differently. What light are we talking about? We're talking about the light of Hashem. So we said, well, the sun, our sun, shines differently every single month as well. So what are we talking about here? So we're talking about, the sun is a metaphor for the light of Hashem, which is hidden. Then it goes to, here's the different combinations of the name Adni, two different ones. This refers to Shimon. It's also the sign called Taurus, or Shvarim, and it's the house of money. And then it comes back, all this light shines like through this. So we're going to get into this more, to be part of what we're doing here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, learning Jewish astrology, a hidden science, a science that needs to be developed more and more.